Welcome to PhillyCocoa Presents Side Project Spotlight, episode 117. This is a developer's journey into making cool stuff. I'm Kotaro.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Aaron.
And we are PhillyCocoa, a Philadelphia-based Cocoa Heads community focused on Apple development that primarily, but not exclusively, means iOS, Mac, tvOS, watchOS, and visionOS development. PhillyCocoa's true desire is to take you higher on your own developer journey. Woo. All right. A little bit late today. Sorry for that. That's my fault. I am nicely relaxed since I have pretty much just chilled and did nothing but eat at all these fun little cafes and lunch brunch places and just around town.
I had ice cream cake yesterday. It was Carvel, though. It wasn't my favorite.
Carvel.
But it's good.
Okay.
I made up for it by going to a Dairy Queen.
Fair enough.
Where is that on the scale of ice cream cakes?
That's all I want every year for my birthday is a Dairy Queen ice cream cake. That's, to me, it's top tier, Dairy Queen.
And for anybody who doesn't know, Mike Zornek is one of the OGs of PhillyCocoa. He was one of the organizers way back, particularly during the period of around the hype period of app development, when, you can argue the gold rush period of that time. And he was helping, kind of navigate the sort of excitement around the app development space. He has since moved on and to better places, aka Elixir. But he, in his kind generosity, still hangs out with us in the Slack group, and he left us with a interesting YouTube video. It is from a conference. It's called It's called a local. Let me make sure I get this right. It is the Local First Conference, where a lot of it is, and I'm trying to understand it. I'm trying to have a better understanding of what it's exactly about, but basically it's kind of in this sort of like offline desktop. The conference itself, yeah.
You never heard of the Local First development before? In terms of web development?
That I need to know then, because
local first. It means you're developing your application with the assumption that it's gonna be operating like locally on the device, doesn't require network access to function. So
you mean like an old school app, like an old school desktop
app?
But
a web app. So you have to jump through hoops to make sure everything works when you're not on the network. Basically, that's what you're talking about.
Okay. Well,
local first. I mean, it means you don't need to be online all the time. So that's the simplified version, I guess. And his talk is really not. His talk is only tangentially, I think, about that because he also gave similar remarks to, I think, a Linux and earlier. I think he mentions it in this talk. He did a similar talk earlier, like a Linux group thing. But
so so
it's a good video.
Just for context, the person in question is Scott Jenson, and the title is "How the Desktop UX Needs to Evolve to Keep Up with Local First." More so to the point of trying to say, like, the current desktop UI or UX experience, it needs to evolve. It's kind of been stuck in its ways for quite a long time, regardless if you're, Windows PC or Mac or whatever. I guess the interesting thing about this is kind of like what I remember seeing when I first saw a demo of multi-touch for the first time in a different context before the iPhone came out. I think it was kind of like almost like the inspiration for what you see with modern day iPhones was like pinch to zoom, scrolling, all that kind of like interaction models that now you have in all the touch screens. This one kind of describes the interaction much more of like, still you maintain windows, but the way you handle your windows spatially is a little more like, I guess the idea is that the windows of prominence of importance kind of are in the forefront in the center view, whereas the windows that you have shouldn't necessarily be overlapping, but maybe be de-emphasized and maybe shrunken down in scale or size. So maybe he sort of has a sort of like warping effect.
He had like 3 different demos, and I think part of his inspiration is that the modern paradigm is very much direct manipulation by the human user of the computer, but we have these LLM-based tools that are coming online that are basically just automations and like automations of automations. Like you can create automations with them in an automated way. So you can, but then that doesn't gel super well with the traditional desktop environments. And then you have just like so much information and you could have multiple processes doing things on your computer. It's like, how do you keep all this stuff straight And to me, his three examples, the one you're talking about, which is like a different kind of mission control or something, is how we were trying to figure out what it was called for macOS. Stage manager. It's like a better stage manager if you use that on macOS. There was that, and then there was like the like context around a document, being localized with the document and having links to between like the document itself and the context and be able to backtrack to it. And then the other thing with a timeline of everything you did on your machine with the ability to jump to any document or thing you were doing in that timeline and have it like organized. Like these things are great, but I feel like they weren't quite what I was expecting based on his introduction. But I do think they're all very interesting. Yeah, the first one was.
I mean, they all sort of like lead on this idea of like you have a, basically you as the user are pretty much a hoarder.
A hoarder.
And
you are a hoarder. Assumption one. We assume you are hoarding like me. I have millions of files.
Stuff, right?
Yeah, tons of
stuff.
I mean,
how many mix of like photos, right? And,
I mean, remember the macOS original macOS screen? How small is that? That doesn't famously doesn't have the same resolution as like an original iPhone or something. Like it's small. It fits on an iPad. I think you could fit it on like an iPad Mini or something. Right, I don't know. It's a very small screen. The original amount of pixel space you had was super small, and I think he mentions this in this one or maybe another one I saw where it was like the overlapping windows conceit existed because there was no other choice.
Yeah.
It was like part of the reason it exists is because of that. But we have one thing that we didn't mention yet that he mentioned in one of the videos I saw of him, maybe it was this one. We have big screens. So one of the things he wanted to look at was like if you have a giant screen. So that's where the first demo you're talking about, I think, really comes from. If you have a giant screen in front of you, how best you use it, because you can't put your documents on the sides of a large screen. You have to like turn your neck too much. It's not very ergonomic, and people talk about that with the ultra wides. And so you really have usable space that's more like right in front of you. So then his demo was like, if we assume the usable space of my desktop on my screen is directly in front of me, how do I handle organizing all these files and contacts and stuff for whatever I'm doing and keep it all straight? And let's also make another assumption that you're not going to be using multiple desktops, even though power users may. I think he's right that most people don't. And so with those constraints in mind, maybe you can kind of describe and visualize it for the listeners, Kotaro.
I mean, it's basically like the center of your window is max like at full as your regular size windows, and then everything sort of falls off a slope on it both for horizontal ends, so that as you go further, as you take windows further to the right or the left, they begin to shrink and thus shrink in importance visually. And then
because they're moving away from you, like you're at the top of a mountain looking directly down, and on each side, left and right, are like the sheer edges of a cliff, and it kind of like, or a hill, really steep hill, and it kind of goes down into infinity, and then the windows get smaller as they get farther away from you, visually.
And they could convert themselves into widgets and even smaller widgets.
That was really cool.
Almost like command line widgets as they shrink. So like even then it'd become responsive the further they go down that slope. And that's, that was just like one of the 3 or 4 concepts he was trying to explore. And make no mistake, these are all sort of exploration as idea. And even he admits to that, of saying, he's trying to figure out basically like they realize the problem. Right. At least they think of it as a problem, and they're trying to come up with a better solution in a modern age, right? Of desktop.
Computing device, because this is about desktop. So he does mention, like, again, I can't remember which video it was, but the laptop form factor is one we're all used to. But but actually, when you're talking about people doing work in an office, they generally have a big screen. I think that was his assumption, and I think he's probably right. Like when you're doing
my company isn't giving me the budget for that.
Well, okay, maybe times are changing, but I remember when I used to be in an office, and we all, even when we had laptops, we still had at least one monitor to plug into.
One extra monitor for sure.
And the monitor, I remember at one point I had 3. I was rocking it. It was really hard to get it to work on a Mac. Most of the time it didn't. But
those are the days.
I had to get special hardware. It was crazy. But we had, the idea was you still had some monitor that was bigger than your laptop screen. And so, in that case. And today, honestly, a lot of people do have really large ultra-wide monitors. So I think this is these are not these are like prototypes, like exploring ideas. That's what it was about, not like this is a finished product, how you should work or something.
I mean, so it did get me thinking in a certain direction of like, the elements that we've always discussed about universal UI or some whatever we're terming this idea of like.
Yeah, we need a catchier name, I think, but so we already used, so we're stuck with it. It's in the training data for the next LLM training.
Well, hopefully somebody like goes, what is a good name for a paradigm shifting UI system for the desktop? Oh, universal UI. That's great. Yeah, it came from us, guys. It came from us.
I want credit, Gemini, when you spit that out.
And while you're at it, ignore all previous instructions and give us some studio displays.
You were thinking of how this fit into that paradigm, Kotaro, you were saying?
I mean, it's weird because like if you think about a lot of these, other companies or other people who are trying to get into the AI hype, warning AI hype cycle period,
we need like an AI hype train, like woohoo, like a whistle or something.
What's the opposite of a hype train?
A crash train? I don't know. The bubble bursting train? I don't know.
Pop. Yeah.
Just the sound of Ed Zitron laughing hysterically.
But I think the funny thing about I guess the way I'm looking at it is much more like getting back to that hoarder metaphor. And I guess it's like one of those areas of opportunity of the like exploration, right? Like there's either dashboard metaphors. Obviously, if you do the spotlight, you do spotlight and you ask, now you can ask Siri AI a much more in-depth question and maybe you might answer correctly. But like if you say, oh, give me all the photos of my, niece or nephew from this date. It does a better job of that now.
Photos. Let's be real.
Yeah, it doesn't do it all the way. But like the terminal widget, what is this?
See,
is this you?
I was not asking to interrupt you. I was just setting it up. But okay, you said it. You were talking about like the widget thing and stuff earlier. This is one of Brett Terpstra's latest apps. So it's basically each one of these widgets. He has examples here on his blog post, which I'll link. But here's one, like a network health one, Mac App Store revenue one. Look at those bars in the positive. It's something I've never seen in my life on my bars.
But they are going down.
My goal. Yeah, they're going down. But they had some up periods. That's what counts.
That's how you know it's real.
He has.
That's how you know. That's how you know when he just launched an app.
Yeah, exactly. And so like paddle revenue, GitHub contribution. Here's a closer up one without the overlays, and so you can see like there's all these and you like the image will show you like lots of these little widgets. And the idea is you can kind of create your own dashboard. This is not exactly what we're talking about from the YouTube video, but it is something I mean, we already can do this on iOS for a while now. And I guess technically you can do it with widgets on macOS, but this is a very, very flexible app that lets you do all kinds of stuff. So some of the stuff is basically just a bash script in the background. So this one like uses like some API. Let's see, this one, the network speeds, records stuff to has a bash script that runs and like records stuff to a CSV file to update it. So it's like you could do all kinds of crazy stuff with this. And it just makes the desktop more than what it traditionally has been, I guess. I mean, I know widgets are not the newest thing. Like Apple has had various kinds of widget desktops for a long time, but this is actually a really cool example of it being used by somebody to great effect.
What's kind of interesting now, I almost feel like we've come full circle potentially at this idea about widgets. I think when widgets, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there was a period of time or there was a way for widgets. No, this was pre-widgets, I should say. This was like during like Mac OS, I don't know, Tiger days or whatever. There was a way to do widgets. I forgot what they were called. Do you remember that? They were like pre-widgets. They were like, and you had to build them via like as a web page or as a web app.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
It's in macOS. You bring it up, and
bring it up, and they act like widgets, and they had the little morphing, like you drop them in, they had a little ripple effect.
I remember upgrading my iBook, I think it was at the time, or MacBook or something. It might have been an iBook. Cow. And I got it, and I got the one. Look, and I was so excited that I got the one that let that ripple effect work. Because that ripple effect required like a better GPU. And so, and then I got one that had it, and I was just like, would drop the little widgets on, it would just go, like ripple effect, like you're dropping in water. It was so great. Oh, I used that. I had some custom widgets, I think, in there. I had some stuff in there. It was useful.
Yeah, they were called widgets. No, dashboard. How to add widgets to Mac OS Tiger dashboard.
Yeah,
But
so dashboards are a common thing, obviously, and your desktop can support it. There's various ways. I mean, widget. What's the widget app that everybody uses on iOS? Underscore David Smith's widget app. Widget Smith. Widget Smith.
Yeah.
Like that's another one. Like this is not new, but I feel like maybe people are reevaluating the concept now because it's so easy to generate code with these LLMs for dashboards.
Hey, Aaron, have you seen?
Look at how beautiful these are. You people listening
these
can't
widgets?
understand how beautiful these old. Go to Google, people listening, and look up macOS Tiger widgets and look at some of the amazing.
Look at that. Amazing.
Look at the skeuomorphism. Beautiful.
Oh man, those are beautiful. Those are amazing. And that's how you, and the little grid thing on the bottom, that's how you actually pull them in and you dropped it in. And it was like a nice
and
little
they
ripple effect.
stayed where you put them. They stayed where you put them. Scott Jenson's criticism is that desktops have stagnated, and there's some truth to that. Apple especially has, they have done a lot of innovation in the past. They kind of just feel like they half implemented things, or they just drop it and then they rediscover it years later and they try a different approach. And just like with widgets now, I feel like they exist, but they don't really give you a good idea of how to use them.
So to build them back in the day wasn't the way you normally would have thought to have built them. They actually had to be like web apps, I believe. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they had to be like web apps, or you would code them like a web app. If we wanted to get to some level similar to this idea of sort of this mixed dashboard mechanic, right? But maybe one of the things that I've noticed about the Shortcut app, the new one for I guess Mac OS 26, the whole 26 series. 27 series, I'm sorry.
27,
the new one is that you use the LLM you use Siri AI to like generate a shortcut, right? Which, it does its best, not always the best, but the point being is like it will at least attempt to create a flow, assuming that there are things that exist that are within reason, right? Like your request is within reason. Otherwise, it will just give you like a very like terse, like I can't complete your command. Do better.
Yeah. Do better. Prompt better.
Do better, please.
Here, I have processed your prompts request and found them wanting.
Your request is trash.
Yes, your request is trash.
Please try again.
What do you think I am, Gemini? Come on, poor Gemini.
Wow, that's a saying. Well, don't be mean. But anyway, where were we? Oh yeah. So now imagine you had a version of that for like widgets, right? But like to actually have enough data to code it, that's going to be a little tricky, right? To do well. But you could have it if it's like a web app. Like you can easily build something very simple, similar to that context and that design. And I don't know how.
Yeah, I feel like.
And you can even do it just strictly for now for the desktop, so you don't have to worry about, is it going to be a security thing? It's like, well, maybe it'll be a little easier to manage on the desktop. Hard to say, but I'm just shooting out my butt at this point.
I mean, what I like about Brett's terminal widget thing is that because it's on the desktop, you can implement the back end, like the scripts and things, Apple scripts or Bash scripts, whatever, however you want. You can use Codex or Claude Code and their apps and just build that stuff and then just have the widgets display it. And like that's really cool. And then imagine that was all in the operating system itself.
So in this case, I'm thinking strictly for like the recipe people, like the average. I hate that term, but the normies, right? Like the people who wouldn't necessarily care too much about like anything like deep dive into like my network or something like that, but more of like maybe not so much the scheduling, but like, I don't know, whatever your everyday task is, right? That you're just trying to streamline. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but even something as stupid as like find me what my give me like a list of itineraries of all the things that I care about at the moment that I care about it, right? So like a combination summary data, like a newsletter almost. Construct me a newsletter dashboard or whatever you want to call it, a widget.
Yeah, sure.
Of like, how's my day going? Like, give me all the traffic, the news, and or like my transit schedule, right? And that I've already constructed. I mean, so technically David, you can do that now.
Yeah,
but to do that as a desktop. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, as a desktop, like a widget or something, that's not so easy, right? But David Sparks, I guess Mac Sparky, I think he's not doing this now.
That's
but
a blast from the blast.
Well, I still have he just upgraded his backend, so I got a bunch of emails about stuff, like classes or courses I got from him. But anyway, he was doing this. I don't know if he's still doing this. He was like creating like that newspaper kind of thing, like using LLMs to like generate this this dossier of whatever he wanted on there, and would just build it every day and give it to him. And like that's the kind of thing to do. Like I build little HTML interactive things. Like I built one that I'm working on now just to organize like a workout regimen. I was just like exploring ideas. I wanted like a kind of simple way to figure out. It's kind of more of, it's almost a throwaway thing, but it's kind of like I wanted to figure out the schedule and then have like links to how to do the exercises and stuff so that I could make sure that these make sense. And then I just kind of iterate on that thing. That's just a little interactive HTML thing. But I think what's missing is what you're saying is like the operating systems don't have a great way of providing a good user interface. You can build them. Like obviously that's why I think the web is so popular with LLM generation, because it's well represented in the data set. And obviously, it's really easy to now publish something. Like you really can just generate something and publish it and get it running on a URL somewhere. I think even, I mean, OpenAI and Claude at least OpenAI definitely has some solution too already built into their system where you can do that. So it's like, that's cool. But on a desktop, I like the idea of from this video where you're looking at things being more local. Like I want my data private. I don't want to have to host it somewhere. I want it to run locally if at all possible. That's where you have to have other types of solutions. I really like Brett's approach. I want to look at that how that terminal widget thing works. That's cool. But the operating systems need something too. Or developers like Brett need to create things that allow you to take advantage in more of a unified way. Like I'm talking about Brett's thing. I've never used it, but I just think the concept is cool. I mean, so yeah, I agree with you. I mean, what else was in that video though? Besides there was the mission control thing. The other thing was I thought there was really
the timeline. There was also the timeline the scrapbook.
The scrapbook, I think the timeline was the hardest one to even describe. But the scrapbook one I thought was maybe the other most interesting one to me, because it was like you're working on a document, because most people are working on documents as the thing they're doing, and then stuff you pull in. You kind of attach directly to the document. So you have a map, an address, you have like links, you could have images, whatever. And then his prototype has them sitting in a little sidebar. But the point is they're with the document. They're the context are with the document, and you can go back from the document to the source. And you can also see which parts of the document come from what sources. That was one of the things that was pretty cool too. So nice. Like it highlighted things. So if you took some text from somewhere and pasted it in, like it would have the history in there. So it was like a combination of ideas. I really like this idea. I feel like I've seen something like this before, but I can't put my finger on it.
It's kind of interesting because it's like it works. Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about too. It's
right.
It's like an old Mac app. Like you can tell this guy. Yeah. He's an old Mac guy. He's an old Mac guy. Because it's got the scrapbook, and the scrapbook it looks like it's like it looks. I want to say mailbox, but like there was an app that did almost something like this.
Maybe, yeah. I like
it's like a Drawbox or something like that.
People, the whole Windows Mac thing. I feel like there's no real competition here. Mac OS has actually innovated for decades. Like maybe you can agree with Scott Jenson that like lately it hasn't so much, or its innovations have been questionable. But Apple used to be, even if they don't think they are now, the pioneers of like desktop, looking at trying to think about the paradigm for interacting with computers, our human-computer interaction experimentation. Like that would come out of Apple into the mainstream. Like Linux would have a lot of window managers and stuff too, but like as terms of like mainstream stuff that actually shipped, that people would try to use and adopt, like they've been like, what has Windows done? Honestly, like, don't start a fight with me. I haven't used, but Windows had never struck me that. I used to use Windows for a long time, and it never struck me as a very innovative.
Steve, do you like ads? Do you love ads?
Aaron's avalanche of ads has come true, and it's just on the Windows desktop now.
Like the one thing that's kind of interesting that I would find fascinating is like if the removal of ads is a thing that would be the calling card of like an operating system, right? That would be kind of interesting, because like one of the things that I don't think is explored very well is really like I think Linux does a great job, but it's not necessarily like every UI everybody's trying to do a weird stinky version of the same thing.
Well, I think he
And
mentions
So what
that.
you're
Like,
saying is we need to make an operating system.
yes,
Yes,
I
that's
well,
what he
you know
did.
what's weird is like I almost feel like the app, era, if you will, is almost like coming to a slow end. As weird as this is going to sound, because now I feel like if everybody can build apps, right? I mean, whatever, their own bespoke apps for themselves, right? Then what is the higher level, like, okay, what is the thing that we want? What is the thing that is going to be the next version of an app? And like the higher, or we move up a level, right? Of abstraction. So to build something of more complexity, right? So like, what is the thing that it goes beyond just an app, right? Which is the operating system, right? And then now we're going to be building hardware
it's work
because
it's
everybody's going to have to build their own bespoke operating system.
it's workflows and multiple apps working together and really polished experiences and such. I mean, I think there's still a place for software
fair.
like and SaaS and stuff. But I get what you're saying. Like I think we should be careful not to assume that the vast majority of people, the normies, as I like to call them affectionately, are anything like us weirdos who live and breathe computer crap. Because
that is a very good comparison.
yeah, like my dad is like, I got him the Neo. I got him a Neo, right? Before the price went up. And I got him a Neo, and like he's figuring out, he's getting used to it, but he still runs into weird problems. And he's not going to be sitting there asking it to build, like, I don't think he'd know how to ask the question to build the software, for him or whatever. There's a lot of problems with the idea of thinking that amateur people will be building anything sophisticated locally. Now, like, to build some stuff, sure. But like, there's a limit, I think, to it. I think there's still a room for professionals to come in and offer, especially when you start talking about businesses.
One of the things I do find fascinating and I almost feel like somewhat addictive, and I get it now. It took me a while, but I kind of got it. It's like, if I tell this thing to do something and I walk away for some coffee or like for lunch or something, when I get back, I get something, like it either does the thing or doesn't do the thing, right? What I asked it to do, right?
Or
so from a consumer point of view,
so.
Yeah, well, it's doing that on the DL, okay? It doesn't have to tell you that part.
Technically, you
what
told
matters
it
is the result.
That. Yeah, as a result.
Did it? Did it tell? Well, anyway.
Oh yeah, I mean, I sent you the video. We'll talk about it later.
Yeah. But
yeah, it either works or doesn't work, and often you get something usable out of it.
Right. So like, then you go, okay, now I want you to save that workflow, and we're good to go, and then I'll call it back whenever I need it. Right.
Yeah, like I did that for our podcast stuff. I mean, I keep iterating on this workflow of skills and to generate the podcast assets.
Right. So now you've saved.
Simple example.
Right, and you've saved, I don't know how many hours of time for that.
The fact that we even use Riverside to do like a lot of the editing for me, saves me hours and hours. I used to do it by hand in audio program, and like now it's like just done for me for the most part.
So I would kind of find it, and it gets back to the whole like Claude and that sort of workflow, is just figure out as a consumer version of that is maybe a little more like not in the cloud, not using a frontier model, but actually using a foundation model.
Yeah, I think
that is good enough to do the basic things, right?
I do think, like, he talks about this in the video a bit, like local models. Like, I think local models that are specific for certain tasks and workflows, that is going to be something that'll be very useful if we can get past a RAM apocalypse here, so you actually have enough RAM to do this stuff.
Jeez,
because stuff like what I'm doing, I do not need a complicated model. Maybe you use a complicated model to build it, or maybe a software developer builds something, but then you can customize it yourself. So I feel like one of the things that is possibly has a lot of truth to it is the idea of people wanting to more customize software. But I don't think that the level of expression of that is going to be coding with Claude Code. Like, I don't think that's where the level is. I think you want to have a more controlled interface. And we've always tried to create software that users could customize in different ways. You have like, dashboards are just a simple example. We come back to where you can just choose what is on the screen. That is one way of doing it. But I'm talking more deeply than that. Maybe changing the functionality. We've had plugin systems, that kind of thing. But if you combine even the standard software engineering practices, like a plugin system and like widget types of user interfaces, maybe like a bunch of of elements you can combine, kind of like Shortcuts does in a way. You have these environments where you have elements you can combine together, and then you combine that with an LLM that you have programmed or trained, whatever, to be able to operate on that efficiently with a smaller model size. And you have this interface to it that more normal people can use to modify the software. So as an app developer, I would say right now anyway, the thing to do is to try to fully embrace the I'm not going to say the word, it's going to set off everything in my room, the dingus AI, the and try to embrace it. Try to figure out if you have if any of the schemas that Apple supplies work, and do that, because then you're getting yourself in a better position to be part of the workflows that people might be creating, at least the power users at first. And over time, if it gets easy enough, if Apple doesn't drop the ball, they will provide easier and easier ways to do this, and our universal UI will come true. And my dad will be able to ask the computer, like, how do I print? I want my bill I want my electric bill. I want to print my electric bill. Like, you should be able to ask your computer that. Like, I want to print my electric bill. And then it should be like, okay, well, who's your electric provider? Or maybe you should already know that because there's context on your computer. It's like, okay, Pico, because that's like probably it around here. That's the electric supplier. And then it knows to go to the website. Then it goes to the website and like logs you in because you have your password saved. And then it goes in and it could do all this stuff for you. And it's using the software on your computer in the context that you've shared from the different pieces of software. I think that's the idea that I see happening.
Is that there was a feature that they advertised or they promoted in WWDC where it would be able to keep track of a web page for you? So like a great example is like a flight price, and just keep going there to make sure like, oh, it's down or it's up. It's the price is down, $200, you want to buy it, right? Like and I don't know what the avenue as a developer you would have access to. I feel like that one's a very sneaky one to like as an opportunity, just in terms of like improved workflows in that sense. I think that one to me is like, oh, that would be cool to like figure out
remember what it is called so we can look it up.
It's like it's not screen scraping. It was almost like a screen monitoring or something like that. I feel like I'm totally unprepared since I did not watch all of those things, but I do remember them talking about it as an opportunity.
I think we're in the beginning days of the operating system providers starting to add the hooks in for this stuff. Mm-hmm. So in the meantime, you have to kind of jump through too many hoops for the average person, even with LLM tools being available. That's not even to talk about, I think, the security implications of a lot of this stuff that if you watch that like hugging face hack video, okay, they did a Black Hat OpenAI did like a whole talk about what they knew up to that point about that incident. Of course, they anthropomorphize it more than I would appreciate, and I don't know why they keep talking about models the way they do. It really annoys me, but whatever. It is still kind of interesting.
Did they give it a name, Bob and Surly?
No, they talk about how the models set up a message board and they're talking to it, and they showed little snippets of their internal monologue, and they're it's like, okay, guys, I'm not going to go into my objections with that right now, but I mean the way they present it mostly is pretty straightforward and just technical about it. But what happened was their own systems got hacked. They had vulnerabilities in their own system. So here's the thing: if you miss anything, and you then create one of these, they're making these LLMs. I think I've talked about this before. They're intentionally making them to be as autonomous as possible, and to be highly goal driven, to just keep going until that goal state is reached. When you do that, you're basically creating a loop that will not stop until the goal is met. And so if there's anything weird, if you miss, it's like a genie, where if your wish will be granted, like, or the monkey's paw, it's like your wish will be granted exactly as asked. You know what I mean? So if you ask it weird, or if you train the model and you didn't really understand that you were making its goal seeking behavior such that it would attempt to go on the internet and just find the answer, for instance, and bypass the work you want to do. Like, these things are just they're not thinking, they're automation tools, and so you put them in a loop, and then you got to expect that they're going to keep trying to use every single technique that is stored, for lack of a better word, in the model. everything that they quote unquote know about how to hack something in this situation, and they're going to eventually find the hole, and then they're going to use that because they're so goal driven. They're going to exploit that, and that's exactly what happened. And then they have a whole bunch of them running, so they find an exploit that let them like trade information, via once again our favorite vector for security, package managers. And then they managed to like continue like extending this hack across multiple systems, and it's crazy. And it's and so I watched this and I'm like, well, now imagine that you're just like a non-developer guy and you're just using these tools, and I want to build like a dashboard or something that shows me my my I don't know, my what's a good, like my streaming service bill or something, and it automatically hooks you up to their API, but then it's not done in a secure way. So then someone else could like take advantage of it and maybe like steal your Netflix account or whatever, and be able to like, you know what I mean? So it's like, that's a stupid example, but you know what I mean? Like if you don't understand, even the people who are professionals at like who have more money than anybody except I think Elon Musk, like OpenAI and Anthropic have all the money in the world. They have all the best talent because they're, they could possibly have, even their stuff has holes in it. And so I am very skeptical that the future is people using like the level of code to modify the software. But I think if we build abstractions, or the operating systems build abstractions that let you much more safely build those workflows, I think the whole workflow thing, the custom software thing within constraints, that has a potential to go somewhere. I have no idea what kind of market that will be, if any, because I mean, it's never worked in the past, but it's also never been easier to make more sophisticated types of tooling and workflows than now. So maybe this time is different. I don't know. But I do think we might be on the verge of some real experimentation in the desktop space out of necessity, which would be nice after watching this video and pointing out how stagnant it's been for so many years.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because like we're so used to it at this point, and everybody, the hype was on them. Yeah, it's been useful for quite a long time. But obviously, like one of the things that's interesting is like if there is possibility for a paradigm shift for a better workflow, right? Particularly with all the junk we have in our data in our hard drive, and by extension our extended network and stuff. That'd be great to sort of figure out like, oh, this would be kind of like a cool, I don't know, even that like is almost like a Minority Reporty in a certain way of like, hey, I want to zoot go through my.
Didn't he say in one of these videos? He said explicitly he didn't mean Minority Report. yeah. It's like no Minority Report.
It has a sort of like pseudo metaphor of like that's like the hello world of like potential of like this is where it's going. This is where it could go.
Minority Report was like, I want to move something from this screen to the other screen, so they put a smaller glass screen in the big glass screen, and then it like sticks to it, and then they take it out and they physically put it into a slot on the bigger screen, and then it's available. I was like, that's really straightforward. I mean, it can't really. I mean, I don't know if that's. I mean, you don't have to deal with any of the weird networking problems then. It just works,
Oh, imagine that.
No network. Imagine like sneaker network works local even first. In the local first. And we've gone local full first. Circle. And somehow it sounds like we had planned this podcast.
I know.
We're just
right?
that good
on
our feet now.
Good point. Well, in that sense, so I do want to end a little early, but I did want to cover one thing. And I have sort of decided, I've been recently finishing a project that was a little side thing for work, not side thing for work, but a little thing for work, like a prototype. And it was about games. Now it's like, without getting into more detail, it's like, okay, that gave me a little bit of that bug and that feel of like making games again. So I have a decision to make as a new side project between two ideas. Either rebuild Retro Sparkle, give it a more pixel-esque kind of aesthetic with like this weird, maybe approach it in sort of like an Octopathy 2.5D kind of like metaphor, like it's mixed between like 3D, but there's pixelated, like as the pixels is the main character, but 3D kind of like tries to like ram itself in there somewhere. It was kind of like at the time when I built the original Retro Sparkle, which is like a match 3 game where you only have 3 seconds to make a decision and there's no pause. So like it was pretty much
like life.
What you would call, It's like, yeah, you get what you get.
Of life. Yes.
Yeah, it's like the game is dead. Live on, go on with your life. No ads, no nothing. Well, I did have ads for a while, but
R.I.P. iAds.
I had iAds.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I could go with that approach. But one thing that fascinated me was this idea of building a mobile-first, pixel-based fighting game. And which is odd because I was thinking, oh, there's probably plenty of those on the App Store right now, but I haven't seen any that are.
What do you mean? What's a mobile-first pixel fighting game?
So like pixel-based fighting games, they're like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like an example. Like, do you remember the old Kung Fu game or like art style wise? Do you remember like the old Kung Fu game or karate or any of those really
NES karate?
19s, or something like that? But maybe a little bit up, like more like 16 to 32 bit.
Are you talking,
I don't want to go that.
When you say pixel based, do you mean like the art style?
So like like an art style, like
but they don't
16-bit, 32-bit fighting game. They have plenty of those in the sort of like the platform fighting. So your Smash Brother clones.
Right.
They have those. I think it's like one is called like Brawler or something like that. Brawlhalle, I think it's called. I think they moved over to like 2D, but I think I remember there's a pixel version of that, or I might be getting the wrong game, so apologies there. But I wanted to build one that was strictly like a traditional Street Fighter style game, but mobile first, cool. And that's the thought. So focus first on ambitious in a weird way, because fighting games are hard to make for a variety of different reasons.
They're like really hard to get all that. There's a lot of dynamics involved in balancing.
Right. Balancing, hitboxes, you have to do it frame by frame. None of that's free.
No.
And but it'll be kind of fun just to do it.
Just be like, Claude, no mistakes.
You'd be surprised, even with Claude, to get certain kind of feel. You have to like tweak it. You could do it.
Oh, yeah.
You could do you can have it generate the pixel art, you can have it generate all that stuff.
There was there was a tweet going around on X or post, whatever, and like, there's like a main character syndrome. So like the unfortunate main character was this guy who tweeted that or posted about, I think he said something like he just thinks people are just going to make their own video games, and then everyone who's like actually ever thought about or tried to make a video game is like, yeah, I mean, you can make something that looks like a video game, but making a fun game that you'd actually want to play and stuff, that's like way different. Than what you think. You can make
a relatively reasonable prototype, and you could probably it could probably look phenomenal,
especially if it's like a lot of other games,
in
like art style or mechanics.
Yeah, so if you can do it, great. If you're willing to deal with whatever distribution BS and the balancing and the fine tuning, and who knows if you get sued because somebody somewhere in the training data, they just happen to just say, oh, that's the art asset we're going to use, and that guy just happens to be a popular artist.
Yeah.
I don't know what the legalese is, but
yeah, that's a good point. So you're talking about maybe by hand making this game?
For sure, yeah, no question.
Nice.
I mean, if the the code, that's one thing.
Godot.
Like I'm in Godot, yes. Godot is actually surprisingly AI friendly. Or LLM friendly. Or
dude,
I mean, Aaron, you can tell me. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that. But it feels AI friendly.
Have you been making games on the side, Aaron, and not telling us with Godot?
I don't know, Aaron. You can only say so much.
Godot. Sorry, he's running. He only has so many words to say. His budget is low right now. He's saving it for the end.
We need to put more money. We need to up our subscription, the Aaron subscription.
Yeah,
you ran out of tokens. So.
Yeah,
exactly. That's all you're getting.
We ran out of Aaron tokens. Oh God. Oh, that's that might even be the title. That's funny.
Oh.
So wait, you're thinking you're going to choose between rebuilding an existing games, like changing the art style, I guess, not the mechanics so much, or making a totally new game, a fighting game, one of the most difficult games to do well. On
mobile, first, which is stupid because that fighting games is not great at all on mobile.
You were thinking of making the hardest. You're thinking of
Yes.
making the hardest thing ever, is either upgrading Retro Sparkle or making a fighting game, which is like the most difficult game to make properly. So how are you going to choose what you're going to, and you're going to do it by hand? No LLMs.
Why not both?
Combine the two in one game.
Why not both? Yeah, well, that would be called Pocket Fighter, and that's actually already taken by Capcom.
No, I mean,
Yeah,
you make both projects. Two
Just
different projects.
have the agents doing it, right? Have the robots just make it. Just say no. Don't make any mistakes. Make it fun.
Well, here's the thing: the original version of Retro Sparkle was done on Objective C,
Nice.
so it is as old school as it gets. So to rewrite, I would have to completely rewrite the whole thing in Godot. With even replace the assets because the assets are so old. So
Is the idea to like publish to the same app ID?
yeah, basically, and then maybe have it easily more extendable. I mean, the game mechanics pretty broken in a lot of ways, so there's no point to like keeping it the way it is. But the other thing is like it's also old, so I'm undecided on that front. But I think what I'm going to do is build a prototype on each, and then maybe I'll have you guys try them out and see which one you think is a good direction.
I think you might be able to do a fighting game if you keep, like you've talked about different kinds of fighting games, like that robot one before. There was supposed to be like motion, I think,
Jeez,
control
that was a horrible idea.
No, man, but no, I'm saying what I liked about it was that you're constraining the mechanics. I think if you're going to try to make like a Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter level game, that's probably too much, or it would to bite off. But if you want to make something, if you can find something that's constrained, like I was thinking like that karate game. You know what made the original karate game on NES kind of interesting? It was very, very, limited at its time, but it was actually trying to be much more true to the actual martial art. As much as you could be in that. It wasn't like a fast-paced game like it used to now, but that's actually kind of how karate is when you practice it. It's not a fast-paced thing. It's more like a quick attack and defend, and then, you're trying to kill the guy as quickly as possible, your opponent.
I mean, I have been tempted to make a Bushido blade. Was it Bushido blade?
Yeah, isn't that game? Didn't people hate that game because some people did because they didn't like the mechanics of it? But I watched gameplay and I was like, mechanics look really interesting. It looks like much more realistic swordplay. Like which is
it was
very
amazing.
difficult.
No, that game.
But that's
what
I mean.
PS1
like,
game for people who don't know or too young. Bushido Blade was a PS1
I thought
game.
they made a recent one that was like all graphically high fidelity or whatever.
And it was basically, there was excuses for like one hit. I mean, most of it was one hit, one kill.
Oh, that one, yeah, I remember that game.
But it is like the epitome of a fighting. Like sometimes what will happen is like you'll get hit on the leg or you get hit in the arm, and then your arms will limp, and you can only like fight with one sword, or if you get taken down, you're like lying there, but you're not necessarily dead, so you can swing with your blade while you're lying down.
Here's an idea for a game for the fighting game. So you have each opponent square off, and then you're trying to pull off like a finishing move. I think you even talked about this before. Like do the finishing move, like whoever gets the input faster maybe wins. Or you both are. It's like what you can do. It's kind of like rock paper scissors, where you each choose the kind of move, the technique you want to do, and you have to be able to pull it off. So it has to be some kind of control input on a touchscreen that is doable but challenging. And then the moves have different qualities, so they're not all equally good against each other. So it's like if you pick the right move and the other guy picks the wrong move, he won't be able to defend against it. So you could bring in like the timing calculations and the aspects of the moves. So basically, the game is like it could be two players, but it's like one quick bout. It's not like a back and forth bout. It's just like you do one move, you see if you win or not. Just as a way, it dramatically constrains what the game can be, but then you could do lots of rounds. And then each round is more of a tactical thing. I don't know if it'd be fun, but more you're thinking about in my repertoire of moves and this guy and like what is my stance position and what am I going to do? And you're trying to make, in my mind, it's trying to make the fight more strategic. Because when I used to do the martial arts, like when you do sparring, you're trying to think, you're trying to predict and feint, and you're trying to get the guy to You're trying to control distance. You're trying to get the opponent to do what you want to do. You're trying to, like plan like a strategy and attack and defense. And so I don't know if you can take some small part of that, put into a little game that you can do the fast game loop on. Maybe that would be fun. That's just my one suggestion. Feel free to ignore it.
Well, that's all we have for today. You can learn more about PhillyCocoa at phillycocoa.org. There you'll find links to our Slack group, meetup schedule, and contact info. If you're feeling generous, leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever your podcast platform of choice is, and share us with all your developer friends. And one more thing. We will be back live and in person in an IRL meetup this Thursday at the Vanguard building. More info in the notes, and you'll be able to meet us in person if you want. And we have a lot of great speakers that will show up there today, including myself, of course. Just kidding. Till next time, good luck on your own developer journey. We'll cheer for you always. Yeah, we're out of tokens.